All right, so for all our viewers, this is Andrew McLaren. He is running for Chattanooga mayor. All right, so first off, can you just start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and why you feel qualified to run for mayor?
Sure. Well, my background was I was a Marine and I deployed to Iraq, trained the Iraqi army. I also went to Liberia during their civil war in 2003 on a humanitarian mission. Since getting out of the military, I worked for the State Department protecting diplomats in Iraq, planning their routes. We'd have primary, secondary, tertiary routes in Baghdad, Iraq in 2006 when we were getting attacked on average 60 times a day. So I was able to navigate the human terrain and working with the federal government. And I believe that I'm the only candidate that actually worked for the federal government, which will give me an advantage when dealing with programs like HUD. Since then, I've become a private investigator, and I've done investigations in over 70 countries. Sometimes we're dealing with anti-human trafficking. We're dealing with helping to rebuild the Bahamas, for instance, after a hurricane, or help Puerto Rico after earthquakes. And I want to do nation building at home. And we've been doing that here in Chattanooga. We've been doing gang intervention. I've been getting guys jobs. We've been bringing gang members together with the police and discussing the Bible and how we're going to move forward and stop the crime. And I want to end the war on the poor and wage a war on poverty, because a lot of our problems stem from poor educational system at the county. And, we can't just skirt our duty here in the city and say, well, that's the county's problem. We have to focus on early childhood education. So the reason why I think I'm qualified is because I'm a bridge builder. I'm an avid reader, and I believe in the principle that we must seek to understand before we are understood. And I am out there every day talking to people, walking around the projects at night, and we must be the same person when we go up to Lookout Mountain. We've got to be the same person that when we're walking around our most vulnerable communities. And I'm not one of these candidates going up to Lookout Mountain begging for money. I'm doing this out of my own pocket mostly, and then some small donations from the people, $5,000 budget. We're going to take our city back. We're going to get people livable wages. We've already put a lot of people to work. I'm telling people that, if you want to join a gang or you're, committing crimes, stop doing this. And I'm going to get you a job in the construction field. And we've been able to do that. If I'm telling you to put drugs and put the guns down, then I'm going to give you something to put in your hand. And that's a shovel. That's a hammer. And we can do this, and we're going to take our city back. So there's my spiel. Thank you so much for listening.
Well, you mentioned bridging the gap. So do you feel like there's a divide in Chattanooga in some form or fashion between certain groups, or?
This is the tale of two cities. And again, I also protect people for a living too, in addition to doing investigations. So this isn't a condemnation against wealthy people. There's a lot of benevolent, rich people out there. And I think Tim Kelly, for instance, has a good heart. And I like the fact that he's self-funding a lot of his campaign. But this is the tale of two cities. We've got two different types of schools. We've got schools that are well-funded and have teachers that are well-paid and that are, highlighted. And then we've got schools that are dilapidated and are struggling. I want to give everybody opportunity. As Rybar Cott said, talent is universal, opportunity is not. I want to have a plastic bag 10-cent tax that a lot of cities have that's working. And we're going to take that money. This is not only going to help our environment because there's more pieces of plastic in the ocean right now than there is fish, but we're going to take that money from the plastic bags and we're going to put it into early childhood education. Childhood trauma is so detrimental to our society. A lot of kids out there are hungry. They've got parents who are struggling. We've got single mothers who are trying to adapt to virtual learning, and they've got to pick and choose whether or not they're going to stay home with their child or they're going to go out and work. So we are all about giving everybody in Chattanooga an equal opportunity.
Are there any schools in particular you're thinking about that need specific funding right as you get in office if you were elected?
Yeah, Tyner needs more funding. Howard needs more funding. It's no secret. It's the schools that are predominantly with minorities, consisting of minorities, seem to be getting the short end of the stick. I wish that we can bring the schools back under the city's control. But like I said, I'm going to be meeting with Marco Perez and other school representatives on the board and talking to them. We can't. What happens far too often is the city leadership says, well, it's the county's responsibility now. We're going to sort of just go our own way. No, these are our children, and we've got to fight for our kids. And our administration is doing less with more with less. We are not the types of people that wait for people to come to us and tell us that they have problems. We go out and we identify where the need is. And I believe in being extremely proactive and going out there and finding the problems and solving it. Akon, the producer, the music producer, and the hip hop artist, He solved all these problems in Senegal, in his native country, Senegal, and got them power and got them water. Well, there was hundreds of charities that were supposed to be doing this. Where were the charities? We need charities to do more. We need our churches to do more. We need every citizen to do more in our city, and we can do it. It's going to require us to try harder and to have a real coming to God moment. I think when we all look in the mirror.
All right, we're going to get to some budget questions. So the city is estimated to lose about $8 million in revenue due to COVID-19 in the 2021 fiscal year. So how would you balance a difficult budget in 2022 or even after that with the stress that's been caused by COVID-19?
Well, I'm the only candidate that is making a mandate for every first responder to get a $10,000 annual salary. We're supposed to have 500 cops right now. We've got 462. So when you do the math, that's $4,620,000 just for the police alone. And then every firefighter is going to get the money as well. So we have 40% of city employees are being paid below the federal poverty line. That is outrageous. If I have to raise taxes, and that's what we're going to do, because we need every person that works for the city and every person in our city in general to not be living in poverty. That's unacceptable. Now, the plastic bag tax, we're estimating that we're going to be able to hopefully pay for that pay increase with the plastic bag tax. I want this again, this is for the environment too. We want people to use the reusable canvas bags, but if they're going to get a plastic bag, then they're going to pay the 10-cent tax. Streamlining. There's a lot of fraud, waste, and abuse. $6 million of LED lights went missing. We're going to cut out the fraud, waste, and abuse in the budget. We're going to streamline it. We're going to reprioritize where we need it. I am not going to be defunding the police, but we are going to be changing the culture in the police department. And by giving the pay increase, it's going to help us with recruitment and retention. Why now? This is going to cost more money in the short term, but save more money in the long term. Because if officers are behaving better and they're happier, it's going to reduce our civil litigation, our misconduct lawsuits, and when they come into and go to an expensive academy and then leave to the state or the county after 2 years, it's wasting a lot of our resources on the expensive academy. So to answer your question in short, we're going to streamline the budget. I believe in full participatory budgeting where we have neighborhood associations, city council members sit down and meet with me. I'm not going to be the type of mayor that's a king or a dictator. We're going to sit down and have full community participation, because what we do and how we budget things in District 1 is going to be completely different how we budget things in District 8. This isn't a one size fits all approach. So it boils down to transparency. It's going to be fully transparent and have full participation. Also, I'm the only candidate that's going to sacrifice most of my mayoral salary. I'm only going to take a $34,000 salary of a rookie cop. The remaining $128,000 of my salary is going to go directly and transparently to poor people. So $128,000 wow. is $512,000. I've come out of pocket before in Chattanooga to buy beds for kids that were sleeping in public housing on the floor, on the mattresses. And this is unacceptable. The city had beds up in Cleveland, Tennessee, but they didn't have any transportation. They wouldn't let me haul the beds down because I didn't have the proper city license. This bureaucratic red tape that's going on, that's hindering people and preventing good people from being helped, we're going to slice through it like a hot knife through butter.
Yeah. I know you mentioned stuff about the police department. We'll circle around to that later in the interview. But just a few more budget questions. So obviously a lot of businesses, individuals have been hit pretty hard by the pandemic, and they're struggling. So how would you provide aid to some of those businesses or families that have been hit the hardest? And are there any kind of programs that you would implement, or are there currently programs that you like and you would keep? What are you thinking there?
Okay, well, this is twofold. First off, we're going to help with advocacy. My friend got a $10,000 PPE loan for his business, and I was talking about how he got it. He said it was very easy. But to a lot of people that aren't used to dealing with governments and the paperwork, it's a little bit intimidating to try to fill it out, and people are worried about having to pay it back. So I've been talking to small business owners about, okay, how much money are you going to have to pay back from this loan, and how do you get it as quickly as possible? So advocacy is what we're going to help. And I've helped do this a lot for veterans on getting veterans benefits, and it has been bogged down in bureaucracy, and they often get intimidated and give up. But I fought for them and got them those benefits. Then I'm going to create a small business task force. So we're going to have as many small businesses as possible, the owners, the employees, people that work at these small businesses, about how government can best help. Because the essence of my plan to help small businesses is that government should be helping, not harming small businesses. I would never shut down small businesses ever. If Home Depot, Walmart, Lowe's, Costco could stay open, then why are we shutting our mom and pop shops down? That is completely unacceptable. It's hypocritical and it's just wrong. And it's outrageous. And some of my friends here in Chattanooga have gone out of business because of this pandemic. We're also going to be focused on air purification, on HVAC, indoor to deal with the pandemic. We can hire small businesses to do this. It's not just for now for COVID-19, but it's for the next pandemic. Obviously, I want you to mask up. I want you to socially distance. But think about it, if we can put state-of-the-art air filtration devices in restaurants, in bars, like they have on airplanes, that'll actually kill and neutralize the virus. We need to be thinking long-term about how we're going to stop the next pandemic, and we can hire small businesses to put in these air purification systems. So again, the Small Business Task Force is going to focus on how we can get federal money, state money, and give as much extra city money as possible. Right now, Mayor Burke is spending $1.9 million on a hotel for homeless citizens to live in, and that's great. I want to help our homeless, but we need to follow the money. Is this exactly where the federal COVID money was designed to go? So there's a lot of questions there on how we're spending this. It might have been better if we put some of this money into helping our small businesses more. There's stuff also that we could waive, like the beer licenses. I was talking to a gentleman who, right before COVID, I believe paid $5,000 for this beer license, and he's like, "Man, now I got to close." Well, if he can't open and sell beer, why is the city going to still collect the money for his beer license? We need to use common sense. I'm a big common sense guy. This is what's kept me alive working in combat zones all over the world. We have to have common sense, and we have to govern with empathy. And that's a main difference, I think, between myself and other candidates, is that I'm going to actually stop overdevelopment and greedy people and put people first, put people over profit, and put humanity over greed.
Mhm. I know paving and transportation is pretty important to Chattanooga citizens. So, what are your goals with infrastructure and transportation?
Well, one of my opponents, but she's a friend, Dr. Woods, recommended a toll. I don't believe in a toll. I think it would be extremely unpopular and would be a nuisance. I want to make CARTA better, obviously. We need a lot more stops. We need a better schedule for CARTA. We need to make CARTA cool to where people actually want to use it. But if you get a job, we're going to get a lot of jobs in the electric field, making cars electric for Volkswagen. But there's no stop that actually takes people from where they live to where they work. So I'm if we can have like a green electric van, like a large van that would actually help people if they're going to work, and we can get out there and take them to their jobs. But we need to make way more stops with CARTA. Um, I think that CARTA should be free if people are living below the poverty line. We definitely need to fix our potholes, fix our infrastructure, our bridges, repair it. I want to make our city a little bit more green with regards to bicycles and walking, but I don't agree with the way the bike paths were put in because I think it jams up traffic. It takes away parking. It's not used a lot. So I do want to put a trolley system in. I think it's going to help tourism, a really trendy, cool trolley system that goes all around Chattanooga. My friend owns the wine train, which is amazing. It's more for entertainment than transportation, but it's a 1926 train that goes all over Chattanooga. And I think that that is just incredible. And we can incorporate more outside the box ideas like riding historic trains all over Chattanooga and having the trolley system and bringing back that southern unique charm to our city. But we need to put more money into infrastructure, and I will definitely take that out of the budget. We're going to streamline it, and we're going to find as much money as possible so we can fix our sewer systems that are overflowing, our storm drains, and our roads that are just literally giving people flat tires. I went on a ride along with the Chattanooga Police Department, and the high-speed chase that I was on came to a stop because the guys that were being arrested hit a pothole and it deployed their airbags. So,
Wow,
right. So it just shows,
adventurous.
yeah, it just shows. I guess the potholes are good for something, but no,
Yeah,
seriously, we
yeah.
need to fix them now.
Generally speaking.
Uh,
Okay, well, I know a lot of people are advocating for a $15 minimum wage for city employees. Mayor Burke was trying to implement that before the pandemic. Do you support this or any kind of pay increase for city employees?
for city employees, 100%. $15. I want them to get paid more, but $15 is a minimum. I would like everybody in Chattanooga to get $15 an hour. Now, here's the only exception: if they are working in a restaurant and they're getting a lot of tips, then I understand when I'm talking to small business owners and they're saying, Andrew, if I'm paying every employee $15 an hour, I'm going to go out of business, or I'm going to have to fire some people. So yes, we can use common sense and some flexibility when trying to get this mandated. I do agree with everybody in Chattanooga getting $15 an hour, and I also like what Mitt Romney just put out about every child getting some type of universal basic income. Nobody in our country, we live in the wealthiest country in the world. Nobody in our country should be dealing with food insecurity, should be dealing with poverty. But I promise you, I guarantee you that every city employee under my administration will be receiving at least $15 an hour, and every available space in government housing and in office buildings will be used to help our homeless. I'm going to turn City Hall into a homeless shelter. And people are like, oh, Andrew, how are you going to do that? Like, look, this is how we're going. And for tornado victims, too, who lose their houses, we're going to open up our arms and treat people in our city like brothers and sisters. And that's how we're going to help get them jobs, housing, because they're going to be directly there and we can monitor them and we can help them. So everything is going to change when I'm in office. We're going to really treat everybody with empathy. And yes, a livable wage is paramount.
So in 2019, 40% of Chattanooga's households are housing cost burden, meaning they pay more than 30% of their income for housing and may struggle to afford other necessities. How would you address affordable housing if you were mayor?
Well, I've been reading a lot of articles about this, and some experts say that we don't have a housing crisis in Chattanooga. We have a wage crisis. And that was a few years ago that an expert said that. I think we have both. But it really does boil down to our wages. Our wages are not keeping up with inflation. Our wages are not keeping up with the cost of living. I do want to have, again, another task force here to where we have landlords meet with tenants and everybody has an equal spot at the table. And the government can monitor this as well. And we say, what's going to work with the best interest of people? And I understand I can work with programs like CNE, like Caleb, about how we're going to get people's median incomes increased because people simply can't afford to deal with it. I also want to go after slumlords. If you're a slumlord, we're going to prosecute you. We're going to get you. We're going to run you out of town. We're not going to have people exploiting people. But to me, this comes down to wages. We have to get our wages up. I was volunteering for the Veterans Homeless Program in City Hall a couple years ago, and I saw how the programs that we could have to get the first and last month's rent taken care of, and the furniture bank, and there's many programs that we can pull from about how to get these grants, the state money, the federal money. I think I can work with HUD very well. But to me, the main problem is we have to eliminate poverty. We have to tackle poverty. And if we can get our wages up, I think that we can help dig people out of poverty. But we also have to try to keep these rents from skyrocketing. A report in the Times said that Chattanooga is tied, I believe, with Cincinnati for the highest rent increases in the country. And I think it was 15.9%. And this is just outrageous. But I promise you that we're going to be focusing on getting people livable wages. And I think that that's the main solution to this.
Yeah. Downtown Chattanooga is an attraction for people who live here and tourists, but it's pretty much been struggling since the pandemic. Are there things you think that need improvements? And how has it been maybe made less attractive? What would you do with the downtown area? Or
Well,
what do you think?
I completely disagree with Kim White. I agree with the NAACP. The business improvement district that she spearheaded is unconstitutional. It created a double tax on our small businesses that extorted and choked out our small businesses, and then it has a unconstitutional police force and a shadow government to shoo our homeless people out. So this created hyper gentrification. Our campaign is going to be treating our homeless and our people living in poverty with empathy, with dignity, and with love. We're not going to be kicking them out to try to make property values go up. I know small businesses that oppose the Business Improvement District. The NAACP opposed the Business Improvement District. And I don't think that helps. Gentrification hurts tourism. It kills the culture in our city. So making everything sterile and kicking out people from our city doesn't help tourism, doesn't help the beauty of our city. Now, a lot of businesses such as Burns Downtown that I was a member of, Cigar Lounge, went out of business downtown. Mad Priest, that my friend Michael Rice owns, the coffee place, he had to shut down downtown. It's because it's been too expensive with the pandemic because obviously people aren't going out as much. They have to reduce hours. There's no easy solution for this other than I'm going to fight tooth and nail to promote these businesses, to get people down there. I wouldn't have shut them down during the pandemic. And they would have been on my small business task force, and we would have worked together about getting them as much resources, promotion, money as possible to remain open.
All right, we're going to flip gears into some public safety questions. So there was a sharp increase in gun violence last year. What would you do to address that or try and kind of reduce some of those violent crime rates in Chattanooga?
Right. Well, I watched one of Mayor Burke's speeches in person before the pandemic, and he had Assistant Chief Vaughn up there, and they both said that there's about 100 known shooters in Chattanooga, and they know who they are. And I made a video after that. If you know who's out there doing the shootings, why are you not prosecuting them? Why are you not arresting these people and getting them off the streets? Now, I'm the only the only candidate with active gang members who are volunteering for me. And they see their gangs as power structures, as to protect themselves from corrupt cops, to help raise money for their families and protect their families. And I told them, I go, look, if you stop selling drugs, if you stop shooting people or breaking the law, and you work with me, then we're going to give you a path to redemption. We're going to help you get gainful employment, and we're going to stand up and defend you. I can do that. I brought cops together with gang members, and we've discussed the Bible. We've talked about humanitarian and philanthropic efforts. Not every gang member is bad, and I learned that firsthand. Like I said, a lot of them just join the gang because everybody in their neighborhood is in the gang, and they feel that this is a way that they can have protection and have some type of power. They feel marginalized. They feel disenfranchised. We need to make people understand that we care about them. And I'm not going to let, the Harriet Tubman housing projects. I would never would have let 300 families lose their homes so we can put a paint factory that's going to pollute the air in the middle of a residential neighborhood. I will never stand for that. We're going to be fighting for people, loving people, meeting with people, talking to people, being proactive. Right now, Mayor Burke's not doing that. He waits for problems to happen and then he hides. He wasn't out there marching with the protesters and talking to them. When things heated up in our city, I set up the meeting between Cameron Williams, one of the heads of Black Lives Matter, and Police Chief David Roddy. I did that. Why did the mayor not do that? The mayor was hiding.
You set up a meeting between David Roddy and C. Grimy?
Yes, between C. Grammy, Cameron Williams, and Police Chief David Roddy. I contacted David Young, who's the head of the Black Police Officers Association. Yeah, Black Police Officers Association in Chattanooga, and I got him and got Chief Roddy and Cameron Williams to meet over on the North Shore in a coffee shop, Stone Cup, I think it's called.
Was it productive?
Yeah, I mean, it was fairly productive. I can't trust anything David Roddy says. I think he's a good person.
Oh, wow. That's a bold statement.
I would fire. Yeah, and the reason is because his rhetoric doesn't match his policies. Because right now, look, I would fire Roddy. I don't think he's a bad person, but I can't trust him. He's the mayor's yes man. Everybody that's in Chattanooga that's pretty much understands that he's Mayor Burke's yes man. I would fire him for vicarious liability. We've had 3 blue team reports go missing, internal affair reports. They're implementing Pedro Bacon. They're implementing former Assistant Chief McPherson. Roddy was in internal affairs at the time. You mean to tell me that you're in internal affairs at the time and you don't know that internal affairs reports are being scrubbed on Desmond Logan? It's up to 5 victims right now. Then you had Benjamin Desalinas, who supposedly was raping, kidnapping people. You have Benjamin Piazza, who's out supposedly throwing firecrackers at cops, making them think they're getting shot at. What I learned in the Marines is that your troops are a direct reflection of you. And when we have scandal after scandal after scandal, then why does Roddy think that he gets a pass? He should resign because of vicarious liability, and he should step down. And yes, from dealing with from what I've seen from both of them, I find Cameron C. Grammy Williams, I find him to be more trustworthy than Police Chief David Roddy.
Wow. So what would you do with CPD leadership if you were elected?
Well, I've said publicly I would hire Glenn Scruggs to be our police chief. I think Glenn gets it. He's from Avondale. He was a great homicide detective. He ran for state senate. I think he should have won. I think he was more qualified than Todd Gardenhire. I like Glenn. Glenn gets it. Glenn grew up poor. He grew up in District 8 over in Avondale. He's got a great love for the people. I think he's well respected. And above all, I'm not going to be keeping in Mayor Burke's yes man. And I see Roddy as Mayor Burke's yes man. Do I like Roddy as a person? Yes. Chief, no.
So I know we've talked about briefly, some activists who were protesting all summer long across the country, obviously here in Chattanooga. And their big platform was defunding the police department or divesting from the local police department and law enforcement. Do you agree with that? And do you think that there needs to be reforms in the police department? I know you mentioned some leadership changes. Is there other things that you think need to be reformed?
I would never defund the police department. It's 100% counterproductive. The bureaucracy that was created with the $2 million that they took away from the police department, they said it was really the equivalent of 3 million because of the pandemic. It went to more bureaucracy. The Council on Resilience, on Community Resilience, it's all mumbo jumbo BS. That's going to get taken away, and we're going to put it back into the police department. We need better training to help retention and recruitment of officers. It might be more expensive in the short term, but it helps in the long term. I've talked about why, because when you have higher quality officers, you have less misconduct, less civil litigation. I do want the officers to better reflect the racial demographics of the city. We have a 34% African American population. We've got only 17% of the CPD is black, and they're offering a $500 incentive right now to anybody who's African American that can make it through the department, or if you can recruit somebody. That's how much of a problem that they're having getting black guys and black women to join the police department, and Latino people as well. I can help with recruitment in that aspect for sure.
Well, why would they not want to work for the police department in your eyes?
Well, a police officer quit during the protest because he's being called Uncle Thomas, sellout, and getting spit on by protesters. There's that aspect. And then when I also talk to some people in the CBD, I go, why is it mostly white officers that are patrolling the black neighborhoods? And then I was told things like, well, it's a conflict of interest, we think, because if you put a black guy back in his own neighborhood, there might be, they might be tempted to look the other way and stuff like that. I don't believe in that. I think that we need to have officers that understand their communities, came from their communities, and that's going to help alleviate a lot of the problems with, use of force issues. And with that lack of respect, we need the officers ideally to be from the neighborhoods that they're patrolling. So I don't agree with that philosophy that, whoa, they can't be from that neighborhood because they're going to have the conflict of interest. I don't buy into that ideology. How we're going to make it better? Obviously, we're going to give a pay raise. I'm talking about a $10,000 annual pay raise. We didn't want to do percentages because then at the tippy top, they're going to get more. $10,000 for every single officer. We are losing on average one cop per week right now. They're leaving because of low morale.
Mhm.
I didn't support officers kneeling. I agree with the sentiments of the Black Lives Matter movement. I did not agree with officers kneeling in uniform because it's a political statement and that's just a big no-no. But the sentiment that, yes, Black Lives Matter, 100%, I agree with that sentiment. Um, I mentioned earlier the bureaucracy that was taken with the money taken away from the police department. It's ridiculous and it's counterproductive. It's not going to help. We do need to change the culture in policing. Yes, there's a lot of officers who have animosity towards the Black Lives Matter movement. We need to work together and get people together, and I've been doing that. I've been bringing police officers together with with the black community and with leaders, and it's been exciting because we've made progress. People that were blocking each other on Facebook, you sit them down, you have a cigar, and it's amazing, the friendships that can develop. What else about public safety? I went to the Citizens Police Academy because I wanted to, wearing my shirt right now,
Nice.
and I wanted to ride along in the most dangerous neighborhood in Chattanooga, because I wanted to have a better understanding for what the police officers in Chattanooga go through, and also to build up relationships with the police department. That way, I've got more credibility when I interact with them. So yeah, but Chief Roddy, I would say, sorry, man, you got to go, and it's nothing personal. It's just there's been too many scandals. It's time for a fresh start.
Mhm. All right, we just have a few more minutes here, so these are just kind of some general questions I'm gonna ask you. One of them is the COVID-19 vaccine. Have you received it? And if you haven't, do you have plans to get it?
I'm all for the vaccines. My dad just got it from the Veterans Hospital. I support people getting vaccines. I respect medical experts. I listen to scientists. Right now, I want our first responders to get it before me. I want the elderly, like my dad, to get it. He's 74, so he just missed the 75 cutoff, but he got
Oh
it.
wow, yeah.
I wear my masks whenever I go out. I socially distance, so you can
Hmm.
be assured that I am going to respect science. Now, one thing that I would do differently than Mayor Burke is on his coronavirus task force, he hired Wade Hinton to be on it. I would never put a lawyer on my coronavirus task force. I would have just doctors, infectious disease specialist, epidemiologist. I would not put my personal friend, a lawyer. So I'm against cronyism, nepotism, and all this type of stuff that's going on in our business, and I'm sorry, in our city. I would only have medical experts. But I want you to understand, Chattanooga, that I fully respect science, uh, and and yes, I will get a vaccine when I can get it. I have been checking my temperature, and I've been tested, and I've been COVID negative.
Do you believe in transparency in the mayor's office, and would you be open to doing interviews with reporters like myself, if their issues arise and we need answers, or citizens are asking questions and we need to get the answers to them?
Yes, we will have the most transparent administration possible. And as I tell people, look, I'm not perfect. I'm wrong sometimes. Please, correct a wise man and he'll thank you. Correct a fool and he'll hate you. Or maybe it's the other way around. But yeah, if you, by all means, hold me accountable, fully accountable, and correct me when I'm wrong. Um, you know, Try to be nice about it, please. Don't hurt my feelings. But look, I'm in the political arena, so I'm a big boy and I can take the criticism, and I want to be fully transparent. And when I'm wrong, by all means, call me out, and that's how I learn. That's how I get better. That's how we can make improvements. And I will never retaliate against a city employee if they criticize me. What I will do, instead of retaliating, like what goes on now, if a firefighter or a cop speaks out against the mayor, they get fired or they get yelled at, they get in trouble. I would say, hey, let's meet face to face and tell me, how do you think that I can do a better job as mayor, and what you need that we can help. That's what I did in the Marine Corps. They say Marines that fear you will follow you, but they'll celebrate your failures. Marines that love you will die for you. You pick which one you want. And I want to be loved, not feared.
No. What should the relationship between mayor and city council look like?
As good as possible. I do understand that we have a strong form of mayoral government. We don't have a weak form of mayoral government, meaning that the mayor does have a lot of the mayor hires the heads of the departments in our city. But I want to have as much participation with not only the city council as possible, but also neighborhood associations, grassroots activists, uh, and work together synergistically together about how we can develop a plan, and realize that as the mayor, I need to recognize, and I will recognize, that what occurs in the different districts or what's needed in the different districts is completely different sometimes, often. So I need to sit down and actually talk to every city council member. And I built up some relationships with some city council members. I really like Councilwoman Coonrod. I talk to her a lot, and we discuss ways to help our city. And I think that she's very proactive. But I will have as great and an open and productive relationship with the city council as possible. And I think right now that Mayor Burke doesn't do enough of that. He's not as much of a people person as he should be in that position. And I will be going to city council meetings. I will be meeting with our city council, talking to them, and letting them know that I have a complete open door policy with the city council members, and high energy here. And please, they are welcome, and let's do what's best for everybody.
Would you support public money for a new Chattanooga Lookout Stadium?
Yes, I would. Now, some people are going to hammer me for this because they're going to say that we've got greater priorities. And I understand that there are some more. We need to focus on our main priorities, which is helping people who are hungry, helping our homeless people get houses. I completely understand that. But I will do everything I can. I love going to Lookout mountain games with my children. This has been around since the 1800s, and I think that it helps with tourism. It's part of the culture of our city. And we have to take a stand when the unique culture of our city is being threatened to be removed. We have to take a stand and stand up for stuff like that. And I think that, the Tivoli Theater, the Lookouts, it's just a staple of Chattanooga. And we really we've already lost so many things here that are precious
Mhm.
because of the pandemic, that we need to take a stand. So I will do everything that we can. I supported Mayor Burke being on that minor league baseball task force. I will do everything within my power to help them stay in Chattanooga.
Alrighty, well, thank you. Is there anything else that you think voters should know about you?
I would say I'm very accessible. So, I get told, are you electable, Andrew? You're not always in a suit. And I say, I think that it comes down to ideas and policies. I'm not one of those candidates who's on Lookout Mountain begging for money. I think that I should be going to the people and asking the people, what do you need from me? How can we help? How can city government help? Not going up and kissing the ring up on Lookout Mountain and begging the oligarchs for donations. So please, I have a big article coming out in the Times Street Press on Sunday. Check that out. Get to know my policies more in depth. And if you have questions, hit me up on social media on Instagram, Andrew McLaren 88, Twitter, Andrew Chrome, Facebook, Andrew McLaren, and let's talk. And remember that I believe in the philosophy and the quote, almost any man could withstand adversity. A true test of a man's character is to give him power. Abraham Lincoln. So
Mhm.
God bless you. Thank you so much. And also one last quote by French philosopher Simone Weil. Attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity. So thank you so much for giving me your attention today.